Hi, I'm John Mason. I'm Nicola's dad. We've been using the share service for now 3 years, coming up for 4 in October. So really, the way that we discovered share was fairly simple, but it was through word of mouth. And the place that I work, my place of employment, effectively, I was chatting away to one of my colleagues, and we got into a kind of more interesting conversation about our families and what we were doing, and I very soon discovered that he was in a very similar situation to myself, as a lot of parents tend to find through word of mouth. We all remain in our little isolated individual lives and don't really dig that deep. All of a sudden I discover that my colleague was effectively looking at a service to move his young lad into, who was coming out of Stanmore College, I think it was at the time, and with conversations about where he was looking and what he was looking to do, and that was my first introduction to share, where he actually explained to me the process and what would happen and what his hopes were and aspirations for his son. So that was my kind of brief introduction to share, and it was just brief at that point, because although I was considering and looking, because when you have any child with any disability, you always have the question in your head, which is the wonder if, I wonder if, I wonder if, and what's round the corner, and how will they be looked after, if I'm not around. And it was just enlightening to hear that someone else is in the same situation and all of a sudden actually had potentially a solution that I could tap into. I think as much as the parent would like, or as little as they would like, the way I would explain it is that share always have the individual, the young person, or the adult or the service user. It's difficult to describe your daughter as a service user, but that's exactly what it is. Share always have the service users, I would say, best interests placed, and it is up to the parents to be involved as much as they want, and share accommodate that massively. But it's always difficult because there's guidelines, there's processes that people have in place. So I would say the simplest answer is, as much as a parent wants to be involved, they can get involved. For Nicola, there have been huge changes. She's more outgoing. She has an awful lot more of a social capability, for the evenings. She had a very strict routine in terms of growing up, and we always made sure that she had loads of activities, but these activities were always during the day when we were at work, or not so much Elaine was a main carer, but it was more when I was at work. Nicola was involved with the daytime routines of if it was school, because she stayed on in school till she was 19. We got an extra year, quite simply because we didn't know what we were going to do. There was a huge gap in the services from going out of school into adult services. There was a bit in the middle that didn't fit. So Nicola managed to stay on at school for another year. Initially, when she moved into her new accommodation, it was sweetness and light, and it was very, very good for everybody. But like any young individual who has a mind of their own, it didn't quite work out. She was in a sharing situation with another young lady, and that two personalities that just didn't meet. There was a clash. So it's been a very good experience that's became quite a difficult experience for us all to manage, and we've come out the other side of that working with share and the social work to get something that actually is much better now. So part of that resolve was working with Share and Nicola, and the way the situation is now is we've moved, or Nicola has moved into a new build. It's a 2-bedroomed semi-detached bungalow which I wouldn't mind moving into myself. And she's got the absolute freedom of that environment, and she loves it, and huge positive. So for myself and my wife Elaine, it's a huge change, because Elaine was the main carer for a long number of years, and that in itself puts a whole load of pressure on the family, on the other siblings, on the relationship, and it's actually just for both of us, it's gave us time to rediscover ourselves, and it's gave us our daughter back. So we're no longer, at odds and dealing with the difficulties of Nicola's care on a day-to-day basis. So when we get to see Nicola, we're actually going down to see our daughter as parents, not as carers, and that's a huge change for us. And more often than not, she's happy not to see us because she's too happy in a new environment. The support team is always difficult, because you get many personalities all trying to do the right thing, and I think it's an area that requires a bit of exploring from everybody's point of view, and it is positive because there is no negative individuals in that environment. They're all positive individuals. They're all positive towards Nicola, but as parents we have a difficult job of well, that's not the way we would do it. So that's the bit that is always difficult as a parent. It's how far you involve yourself in that process, or in fact how far you stay out of that process. And we're quite active parents, and sometimes maybe we feel as if we're stepping on the toes of Nicola's carers. But it's about letting go, but having the confidence to know that you can let go. So that's where we are now with it. Communication, build the communication skills up for everybody in the team, including the parents, because Nicola has a very social outlook, and she has great difficulty in getting that over into situations. So with the help of technology, we're pushing just now that she gets an iPad that has some touch-talk software on board that describes her day, that's tailored to her needs, and that she can use to convey with other people. So her greatest hope is communication for Nicola. Her greatest kind of wish is that she remains as happy as she is in the situation that she is, which is always difficult because cost cutting is always round the corner, and you never forget that as a parent. But cost cutting is difficult, and that always has an issue. So you're always in the back of your mind. You never really fully forget that what you've got is unique, and you want to hang on to that as much as you possibly can. To say the one thing I always promote share with is the people that sit at the top in that in that group, and I don't know if it's a director's board. I think it is a director's board. They're all parents like myself, so they understand the best the services can possibly offer, and they want to make sure that that's promoted within Share Scotland. And from that point of view, that's can give nothing but excellence, because it's people that know how these young adults should be treated, and the respect that they require, and how their needs are met.